Hey guys, and welcome back for another video. Today I'm going to be doing a progress vlog video where I will be showing you how I make this teepee. I will be making two teepees and I'll be making it out of this fabric, which the beige is from IKEA and the accent fabric is, this one in particular is from Hobby Lobby. I will also have a chevron fabric that you will see, and that one is from Joann's. I will be making two teepees, but will only be showing you one step of each, so you might see the chevron, but don't get confused, as each, like, all the process will be the same. It just, you might see two different fabrics, but so yeah, so this is it. It is 4 panels. I will have some links over at my blog for the patterns. The pattern is usually just a PDF that explains how to cut it out of the fabric. It's not an actual full-size pattern that you would like print out and tape together or something like that. So it's just some simple math and measuring to get this pattern. So yeah, so definitely check all those links down below. If you enjoy these videos, give me a thumbs up, comment down below if you have any questions, because I might leave some things out. I'm trying not to, but these little clips were of course done at different times, so I hope you enjoyed nonetheless, and if you want me to do more of these videos, definitely let me know as well. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so I have 5 meters of this white canvasy type fabric, and I've started by cutting out my first triangle. I have a pattern that I created out of paper, but there are tutorials on Pinterest and stuff like that on how to do the measurements, because it's apparently supposed to be like a triangle, and then you cut the other triangle, and then you cut the other triangle, so you use as much of the fabric as possible. So I cut the first one on the fold, and I'm going to lay the second one out. And this is actually longer fabrics, unlike you get in the stores, so you can actually get the full panel from the IKEA fabric because it's extra long. But if you went and got the fabric from like Joann's or Hobby Lobby, they're like, you know, the normal length fabric that they normally have, then you would have to compensate for that by either adding an accent fabric or adding more, so you'd have a seam. So this fabric is really great for this tent, but I will be cutting it just because I do want to have accent fabric on the top. So I will show you when I place the second part. Okay, so as you can see, I lined up the fabric on top. I know it's not ironed, but I didn't feel like ironing 5 meters of fabric, so yeah, so it doesn't line up perfectly. So I think what's going to happen is, after I cut out my panels, I'm going to line them all up and then just trim along the edges to make them perfect. The doors of the tent are a different pattern, so I will be cutting out 3 of these. Okay, so this is my last panel cut out, and as you can see, I don't understand what happened. It's supposed to be perfect, so I'm just going to trim that off. This little bugger is not helping as much as she thinks she is. Okay, so here's my door panel. This is one of them, if you can kind of see it. So if you took the one side of the teepee and cut it in half, that would be too small. So you have to add on some seam allowances to the one side, because you're going to be hemming this side and you want it to close nicely. So we have to cut these door panels separately. And hopefully I can have some sort of a demonstration of how I got these measurements. I actually got my girlfriend to come over, and she helped cut out all the pieces from the pattern that she has at home. So yeah, so I cut out these 2 pieces, and now I have just enough fabric to cut out the other 2 mats, because I need 2 for one for each teepee. And then I also have to make ties to tie the teepee open and tie the top of the teepee. So you'll have to cut like long strips for that. So I'll probably do those a little bit later. I'm not sure. Here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the top teepee portion in the accent fabric. So basically I just took the panel and then retraced it on paper and then chopped off about like a quarter of it and then created this pattern. This is one that's already been cut out of the other teepee fabric, so I'm just going to take this one and use this as a template just because the paper always slides around and I don't want to deal with that. So that is how much of the fabric I will have on the top, and I will go ahead and cut this out. So just be mindful that if you do have fabric like this, that I will have to only cut these pieces in one way, because I can't take this and then flip it, because then the teepees would be upside down on the other panels. So yeah. Okay, so I cut out 4 of these, and as you can see I have all that wasted fabric here. So I'm going to probably use that stuff for the ties just so I don't waste it. I was going to make an accent fabric, or sorry, accent pillow with the leftovers. So I think I have enough there that I can do that. So yeah. So now I'm going to start sewing because I have everything pretty much done. I'm going to attach these to the 3 panels. So yeah. Okay, so here are my door panels, and I'm going to hem the first part, which will be this inner part, which is the straight edge. So as you can see, it's curved here. So I'm going to, I lay down my my pieces just so that I can make sure that when I hem them correctly. So I'm hemming this side and then this side of the other one. So just make sure that when you go to hem the second one, then you don't hem them exactly the same, because then your edge will be on the outside. And I just folded it once and then against, just so that there's no raw edge. And so I'll sew all the way along there. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Okay, so as you can see, there is a natural occurrence, which is this bad kitty who just can't seem to stay away when I cut out my fabric. Okay, so what I did now is I finished hemming the door panels, and now I'm going to work on the, I'm going to still work on the door panels, but now I'm just checking to make sure that my 3 panels that are identical are the same. So I just laid them all on top of each other to make sure that they are nice. And then I'm going to lay down the door panels on top of this, and I will show you what I mean in a second. Okay, so I laid my door panels down over top, and if you can see, that is not a perfectly straight line, but I do want the door panels overlapping. And then you see at the bottom it's not quite perfect, so I'm going to trim that off, and then I will figure out the top, because I'm going to make the top have the accent fabric. Okay, so I laid down the accent fabric on top, and I'm going to be attaching this to these, and then that will secure the 2 door panels onto here, and then we will have our 4th panel completed. And so because we have too much fabric, we're going to cut it across. So we're going to cut across the 2 door panels about here, and that's going to give us about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we are going to cut the other 3 panels accordingly to fit this top accent fabric, and then we will sew the accent fabric onto the panels and onto the door panel, and then we will hem. We'll go from there. So because they're all lined up, you can just cut all of them one after another, because this is going to be the same measurement for every single panel. Okay, so here is the panel, and I attached the accent fabric, and so I attached it right sides together, and then I laid this out, and then I did a top stitch along here just to make it lay nice and flat. So now I'm going to lay down all of the triangles on top of each other just to make sure that they are nice and even, and if I need to trim any of the sides, then I will do that now. Okay, so I had to trim a little bit on the edges, so now I'm going to start to sew my panels together. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take 2 of the panels and I'm going to put them wrong sides together. By doing that, we will be creating what they call a French seam, and we will then put the sewed panels right sides together and then sew about 1.5 inches in, and then our poles will go in there. So for this teepee, the poles will be inserted and they'll be on the inside of the tent. Some teepees have the poles on the outside, but this one will be on the inside. So I'm going to start to sew my first panels. I'm just going to take 2 of these ones and put them wrong sides together. I'm also going to need to make ties to use for the tie backs for the doors. So when you go to sew those seams, you're going to insert your tie backs. So I'll show you when I get there. Okay, so now I'm going to cut out these strips that will be used for the ties. I'm going to do one long one. So I'm just cutting a big long piece of fabric, and then when I get to installing the ties, then I'll decide if they're too long or too short, but I'd rather make them too long than too short. So I'm making them 2 inches wide by, I don't know, like 25 inches long. And then I will sort of create bias tape where I'm gonna fold it this way and then fold it again and then sew along this edge to make the ties. And these ties will be used to keep the tent open if the children choose to do that. Okay, so this is how I'm ironing them. And then I will fold it and iron again. And then that is what I'm going to stitch. So.
Oh, hi, Mama.
Hi, baby. Okay, so these are my finished ties. So now I'm going to start working on the next part. Okay, so I just want to make a little note that when I do put the panels together, as you can see they are wrong sides together, I'm actually going to start sewing at the seam where the 2 fabrics meet, only because I want to make sure that these 2 line up. So I start here and sew this way, and then I will come back and sew from here down. So that is the best way to ensure that I have a good even line with those 2 fabrics. So now I'm going to sew on the panel with the doors, and I've already sewn up until the accent fabric. So now I'm just going to sew the rest of the side, and this is when I'm going to attach my tie. And so all I'm going to do is, when I get down to the place that I want to attach it, so about like a foot from the bottom, I'm just going to take this tie and I'm going to lay it flat like that and then sew it. So that will make sure that half of the tie is outside the tent and half of the tie is inside the tent, so when the door panel scrunches together, then it will come over it and then we can tie it. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish that seam, making sure I put my tie in, and I will keep going. So I already have one of the plain panels done, so I'm got 1, 2, and so basically doing the third one, and then I have one other panel to attach. And then we will start hemming. I'm swimming in a sea of fabric. Once you get all 4 panels attached, it's a bit much. And then you wonder why you have such a small sewing table. But then again, I have such a tiny room, so. Okay, so before I sew the whole entire TV together, I'm just going to hem the bottom and the top. So I'm just ironing, folding once, and then folding again. Well, it's been about a year since I've had this machine, and this is the first time this has happened. These are size 14 needles, so they're for medium to heavyweight. So I guess the now I'm scared. Hemming this fabric, because it's like a canvas, it's a little thick, especially around here, which is where I did it, right in the seam. Can I just say that this is best case scenario, because I've had these things fling at my face. Okay, so I made it through with my new needle. I just want to give you a pointer that one of the reasons why my needle broke through those layers of fabric is because, one, I've already sewn one whole teepee with it. So needles do get dull over time. So obviously once you put that needle in for the first time, it's going to be nice and sharp. So it's just going to have a harder time piercing through the fabric. So that's probably why that happened, because this is a new machine. There's nothing, it doesn't get jammed very often. It's pretty good. So just so you know that, don't be surprised if that happens to you with really old needles. So yeah. Okay, so now I'm just going to make some ties for the teepee poles. So I just took 1.5 inches of the canvas fabric, and I sort of made my bias tape, and I'm going to sew all the way around here. I made it really long, and then I'm just going to cut 4 pieces. This is going to be attached at the top of the teepee, and then it gets threaded through the poles, and then that keeps the fabric from not sliding down the poles. So it's a very important part of the teepee process. Okay, so here is the top of the teepee. Here is one panel. Here is the strips that I made. They're all sewn, and I cut them into 4 equal lengths. And then I'm going to take one, and then I will sew it, just attach it right here in between, so centered it on each panel. So I will have 4 of these at the top. So I'm just going to do like a little square, or like, you know, zigzags or something like that, just to keep that, make sure that is nice and secure, because that will be holding the whole weight of the teepee onto the poles. Okay, so here it is. I just did a bunch of stitches. So now I'm going to work on the pole holes. And to do that, you will have to flip the whole entire tent inside out. Okay, so I'm going to be doing it at about 1 1/4 or 1 1/2 because my poles are going to be 1 inch in diameter. So if you look at your plate, there is a 1 here. So I'm either going to do it here or here. Last time I did it at 1 1/4 and it was a little tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold it right sides together with the seam as perfect as I can get it. And then I will feed it into the machine. And then I will just try to line up this with the 1 1/2 and try to go as best as I can. I'm gonna probably go a little slow, so this process takes me forever, but it's better that I do it slower just so that I can get it correct. And then that will pretty much be it for the teepee, actually. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Okay, now I'm creating the ties that will go around the poles at the very top. These ties will hide all of the you know, where the pole is attached to the top of the tent. So I just cut out 6-inch strips of the fabric. So this one's for the tent fabric one, and this one's for the chevron. And then at the end, I'm just doing a little bit of a decorative touch where I just I'm gonna make it go to a point. So basically, when these are sewn, then it will just look like that and like that, so it just won't be a blunt edge. So it'll just make it look a little nicer. So I'm just gonna iron them up and then sew all the way around the edges, and then I hang it up, leave a little hole here just for turning, and then I can put it on the tent. Okay, so here is the tent. So just show you what I did. So I drilled a hole about 1/4 of an inch in diameter through each pole, and then, like I said, I attached these, so I will thread 1 through each pole, and then you tie 2 together. The way the poles go, you kind of just have to fiddle with it until it kind of stands nicely. So this is going to be the finished, or the end of this progress video. I'm going to be doing the mat next. So the mat's going to go on the inside of here, and I'm going to bring that accent fabric back inside the tent. So yeah, if you enjoyed these progress videos, then definitely give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, this is my first time making a tent, so I might not know exactly what I'm doing. So if you know a better way of doing things, then definitely, you know, leave that down below for other people. I don't think I'll be making a tent again. I am making 2, so if I did make a tent, it wouldn't be anytime soon, that's for sure. It is a lot of work, and it is a week before Christmas. So yeah, I'm kind of done right now. So there's the ties down here, as you can see, and the tie is on the inside. I'll show you the inside. You can see there is what it looks like. And yeah, my kids absolutely love this tent, and because we already have one from a friend that made one for us, and yeah, so they're pretty excited for their cousins to have one so that they can go over to their house and play in their tents. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. And if you want to see part 2, then I will see you over at part 2. I will link that down below, as well as all the other links for anything else I discuss and my social media. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.